one of the good guys in the business, getting everything that he deserves with all of his success. And I know that for a fact because I've known him ever since I walked on the campus at ESPN in 1996. And he was there the day that Susan and I got married. He's Chris Fowler, the voice of college football on the worldwide leader in sports and ABC here on the Rich Eisen Show.
It was a great day in Central Park.
It was that.
Better memory for you, but it was also a good memory for us.
No, it was a rainy day, Chris. That's right. It was like, it was ironic.
Like
it was rain on my wedding day.
Much like today.
Well, where do we start here? Let's start with the four. Do you agree with the four, the college football playoff rankings as they currently are?
Yeah, I thought they might manipulate the rankings, and I still think there's a possibility that it's going to be interesting to me that even if Clemson wins and Alabama wins, it means that the Big Ten game becomes a play-in game, and the four will be set. There won't be much of a discussion, really, at that point. But might they flip it around? They would never cop to this. They're not in the matchup manipulation business, they'll tell you, the selection committee. But I just wonder, if Clemson, are they rock solid at number one, even if they win, or might they flip it to not have an Oklahoma-Alabama semifinal, but perhaps to split those teams into two different semifinals? And to do that, you're going to have to put one of them at number one.
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
You're calling the game that I think has the biggest interest, and this is coming from a Big Ten guy, too, because I know that is a play-in game for the Big Ten. But Clemson and North Carolina, which you're calling on ABC on Saturday night, kickoff at 8 Eastern time. Do you think that UNC, if they pull off the upset and beat Clemson, that could possibly open the door for Ohio State? Or you think North Carolina, it's a play-in game for the ACC, too?
No, I don't think it's a play-in game for the ACC at all. I think they'd be in the conversation. They're really coming from deep center field and trying to make a late push here. And Clemson would be by far their biggest win, and I think would earn respect for them. I still think it'd be a hot debate in that room because there are people who would say, oh, they're a conference title. They beat the number one team. Their loss was way back in late August to a team that they outplayed, South Carolina. But the non-conference schedule is weak. They skated by and survived some close calls, which you get credit for winning. I mean, they're 8-0 in the ACC, but needed overtime to beat Virginia Tech. And so on. So I think there'd be a hot debate. I think if you looked at, the talents, maybe who would you rather not play? The answer would be Ohio State.
Of course.
But I think Carolina could make a case. And listen, but I don't think it's a play-in game for the ACC, to answer your question, no.
Well, I mean, I'll take the North Carolina side of it, which is the way I'm going to put it, instead of it saying the anti-Ohio State side of it, because, I don't want to be accused of anything.
I think Stanford's in the mix, too, Rich. I really do. I think
how so?
Stanford, if they beat USC,
okay.
Yeah, it's a two-loss team, but it's a team that's played a tough schedule, would have a good number of quality wins, would have beaten SC again, and is a conference champion. And I think, again, a team that's playing good football at the end. I mean, they survive a home loss to Oregon, and they survive a bad road loss early in the year to Northwestern, a team that ended up being a pretty good team. But a two-loss team over a one-loss defending champion would make a lot of Big Ten fans sick to their stomach. But I think they're in the conversation.
But if UNC goes ahead and knocks off the undefeated number one team that's been sitting at number one ever since the college football committee, playoff ranking committee, started ranking teams, couldn't you also say, well, Ohio State's only quote-unquote impressive win was at three-loss Michigan when you look at their non-conference schedule and who they beat and lost to a Michigan State team that didn't even have their starting quarterback? Shouldn't you say that UNC, that would be more impressive than putting Ohio State in the mix?
Well, again, I think there's different ways of looking at it. A win over Clemson would be the best quality win anybody'd have all year. I mean, you're beating the number one team, and for them, a must-win game, neutral field. So that, if you go by that criteria, yeah, that's the best single win you could throw out there. Ohio State hasn't played like one of the four best teams most of the year. I'll agree with you on that. The NFL talent they have on that roster, I don't think from a personnel standpoint it's actually even close. I mean, they have top-rated guys in almost every position grouping, by the Kuipers, McShays, and so on. So, but they just haven't always lived up to it. They got off to a sluggish start offensively until they finally settled on Barrett. Then he missed a game. They come back, and obviously were badly outplayed by Michigan State on their own field. There wasn't anything flukish about that loss. So I'm not saying their case is strong. I just think that the committee with some strong Big Ten voices in there, would look at Ohio State in that situation for sure.
Chris Fowler, who's calling the ACC championship game with Kirk Herbstreit on ABC, 8 Eastern time, joining me here on the Rich Eisen show. And so once this game is over, are you going to be part of the Heisman again, Downtown Athletic Club?
Very, very thrilled to be doing that. And we have the award show down in Atlanta. They moved it to the Hall of Fame in Atlanta, so we get that, and then that's on Thursday, and then the Heisman on Saturday, of course.
So how do you see the Heisman shaping up, Chris?
Man, I vote in a straw poll, and because I host it, I don't ever reveal my ballot, but I'll tell you that it's as fluid for me as it's ever been. I mean, I can make cases for a whole bunch of guys. I mean, I ranked 3 and sent it in, but the order could flip around. There are guys who weren't even on the ballot I just put in there. It's not an official ballot, it's just a straw poll, who I think could jump in. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult. I think you got a lot of guys having really good years statistically. You've got top players on the top teams. When you talk about Derrick Henry at Alabama and Baker Mayfield, without him, I don't think Oklahoma's anywhere near the playoff. I mean, not even close, not even in the conversation. And the same goes for Deshaun Watson and Clemson. So there's the old thing, and it's the reason why the quarterbacks have dominated the award. The position is the most important on the field, and just is the most valuable to the team for the most part. But Henry's had a monster year, and Alabama's had a great year, and he's run over really high-quality defenses. And if he does it again to the Gators and they win the SEC championship game and Henry's got a couple hundred yards, I think he's clearly the straw poll favorite. But then there's Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, and Elliott's had a good year at Ohio State. So there's really any number of guys. It's a 90-minute show, so maybe we'll have more finalists than usual. I don't know.
Yeah,
that depends on the ballot. I don't decide who we want.
Sure,
there. It depends on the votes, but it could be very splintered.
Yeah, there's Keenan Reynolds of Navy as well.
Yeah. I thought his candidacy was hurt by the loss to Houston, Rich. I thought that he's had a tremendous year. He's had a tremendous career. You love what he stands for, what Navy stands for. They got beat by 3 touchdowns though in a division championship game in their conference, which I think fairly or not, because they give up 50 points, and it's hard to win when you give up 51 points. But he's had a tremendous career too.
Do you know which one of the semifinal games you're calling yet? Which venue? Do you know that yet?
No. Those again, we'll see what the committee does to arrange the matchups, because that's the intrigue. And then one will be in Arlington and one will be in Miami, and the order, the kickoff times hasn't even really been set yet. They'll wait and see what the matchups are.
So you don't even know where you're ringing in the New Year yet at this point in time.
I don't know. I have a better idea on Sunday.
So it's either in the Jones Mahal or in South Florida, in Miami.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. How are you enjoying calling these games, Chris? You've been off the game day set now for 2 seasons, but this is the first one where you didn't even really set much of a foot on the college game day set at all. How's this been like for you?
Yeah, it's been a different kind of year. I mean, I look back at last year, and I don't know how I juggled it, because it's really challenging. I miss certain things about the show for sure. You don't do it for 25 years and not miss it, but I still see the guys around, and what I like about it is that I can dive in deep and prepare well for the games and pretty much do what other people do, which is just tunnel in on 2 teams, and that's been fun. I get to go to Chapel Hill tomorrow, meet a team I've never really covered before in Carolina. At least it's been many years, and haven't called a game of theirs. So, I mean, that kind of thing you don't have the luxury to do when you have game day to worry about. So you got to focus on the positives.
And then you have some professional allegiances, one of which I'd like to hit you on right now, because I know you're a Colorado guy. Where do you think? You think the Broncos should stick with Osweiler here?
Isn't that amazing? We're having that conversation.
Sure.
I mean, you think about, oh my God, they're buried. They're done with that. What chance do they have with this guy? And now it's like, gee, wait a minute. Now they beat the Patriots, something that was hard for Peyton to do. Now we're gonna, now if he's healthy, but I think logic will prevail, don't you? I mean, I think the upside is that you now have a guy that you can trust in more if you need him. And I think you want Peyton to be 100% right. Like, you don't hurry him back, right? You keep him and make sure when he comes back that he's himself. That's how I would see it.
But anyway. You think that if Peyton Manning, because it may be a moot point, because there's word that, there's a lot of discussion about his foot not being able to heal in time. Yeah. But you think, let's say things work out and Brady rolls around back in that house again, where Brock Osweiler beat him for a chance to go to the Super Bowl, you think they would go to a healthy Peyton Manning instead of a kid that's maybe put him in that position?
Don't you think they would?
I don't know. I don't think so, Chris.
I would be thrilled if Denver would somehow host that game. I'm not convinced that's going to happen.
I know, but hey,
it could. The dreaded thing is, now you're not a Patriots guy. There are those in your family who are, but
yes.
So I don't like to say anybody but New England. But since I don't cover the NFL, I'm allowed to be
yes.
a obnoxious fan.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're going to be hard to beat in the playoffs if you got to go to Foxborough, and so
of course,
I'd love to see them stumble again. But I don't like Denver's chances of winning in New England or anybody else's. So
I agree with you. But if New England, if Denver wins out and New England trips up, say Houston, in a couple of weeks from now against all those old Patriots, Bill O'Brien and Crennel and Vrabel, they're all there, right?
I got to come clean. I turned the game off before Denver stormed back. Because I was deflated they were losing and annoyed the Patriots were winning again.
Oh, Chris.
I bailed. It was really late, and I had an excuse. I had no sleep coming off a long trip back from college football, but I'm as ashamed. I actually checked the score on my phone when I got up, and I did not believe they'd won in overtime, and I'd missed that touchdown run live, and I shall not turn off a game.
That's
again.
right.
That was a lesson. It was a rookie mistake that I made, but I really did give up on them when they were.
Before I let you go, which gig do you think is the best coaching vacancy available still in college football? You got the U, right? South Carolina.
Yeah, Georgia's no longer available with Smart, so I mean that would have been the answer. I think the resources are there. I think Miami is still a great job, but you got to deal with the expectations that are off the charts and unrealistic. But for a lot of people, really, really attractive job for sure.
What do you think, Kirby Smart? Is he gonna be part of the Alabama championship run, or is he out? I mean, how could a defensive coordinator just leave in the middle of all of this, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's got his hands full just getting through this game with Auburn, with everything that's swirling around, and not to mention the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty about the entire staff. Rich, I mean. There's whisperings, who know, Lane Kiffin, I think, is going to go somewhere, whether he goes perhaps with Smart to Georgia or somewhere else. Others in the staff are involved in that, too. They're thinking about their future. So I think they should beat Florida. I think they should handle that game. But I'm not going to tell you that it's not a distraction, that it's not a factor. And then going forward, you're right. If they win, they're off to the playoff. And, I think you would expect Kirby Smart to start at Georgia ASAP. And hit the recruiting trail, and that would take him out of the mix for coaching in the playoff. But I don't have any inside information on what they're going to do about that. But typically, as you know, when you're leaving, you're off to begin your head coaching responsibilities, and your new employer makes that clear. Now, unless they've got some deal with Smart, who's a Georgia grad, and I think has a chance to be a really good hire. We don't know for sure. No one does, but. I wonder if they'll let him stay. It'd be unusual.
Yeah. Last one for you. You think there's any chance the Orange Bowl or somebody hooks up Michigan and Notre Dame? You think there's any shot at that?
Is that your best hope? Is that what you're holding out hope for?
I would love that. Why wouldn't somebody want to hook up Michigan and Notre Dame?
Yeah, if you love ratings and tickets, I think that there's every good reason to do that. You think that both schools would be amenable to play? I mean, wasn't there some animosity when they broke off the rivalry and all that stuff?
It's time to hug it out. It's time to hug it out. It's time to hug it out.
The times over the years that Michigan and Notre Dame have hugged it out, and not many.
Chris, you're the best. Say hi to Jennifer.
All right, likewise. Say hi to Susie. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great holiday.
All right, bud. Take care.
Bye-bye.
At CB Fowler. The best in the business right there. Chris Fowler.
The Rich Eisen Show. Weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.